Wall Street celebrates tax cuts.
A giant present for Christmas.
The implications of a late, last-minute deal and how where you live could determine how much you pay. Also tonight, both sides weigh in after protection for millions of acres of federal land is removed.
This place is so sacred to the Native Americans.
They've lost opportunities to create economic development.
Ben Tracy with more on how U.S. forces stay prepared near North Korea.
We shot up into the air at nearly 500 miles per hour.
Also up in the sky, the first and only supermoon of 2017. And
scared me.
The very delicate dental work taking place on big cats.
Currently, we're doing 4 root canals.
This is the CBS Evening News with Jeff Glor.
And good evening. Wall Street today signaled its approval of the tax cuts passed by the Republican-controlled Congress. The Dow closed at a record high with financial stocks leading the way. The president called the overhaul a Christmas gift. So what's in it? Chief Congressional Correspondent Nancy Cordes unwraps the tax package.
Talking about massive tax cuts.
President Trump is closing in on his first major legislative victory.
The yeas are 51.
Now that the Senate and House have both passed GOP tax plans.
On this vote, the yeas are 227, the nays are 205.
Both bills reduce individual rates across the board, while roughly doubling the child tax credit and the standard deduction. In exchange, both plans eliminate deductions for interest on student loans, for state and local income taxes, and both plans cap the property tax deduction at $10,000.
We can reach an agreement quickly.
GOP leaders predict it will take them about a week to iron out key differences between the two bills. The House bill, for instance, eliminates the alternative minimum tax. The Senate bill does not. The House bill makes the new lower tax rates permanent, while the Senate bill allows them to sunset in 2025. And House Republicans like that the Senate bill repeals the individual health insurance mandate, which would allow the GOP to finally chip away at Obamacare. But Democrats say Republicans are rushing and making mistakes.
I want you to take a look at this, folks. This is your government at work.
The bill that passed the Senate early Saturday had illegible changes scribbled in the margins.
Conversion for a corporation, something, C corporation, paren, dangerous? That can't be right.
And while studies show the wealthy would be the biggest winners, Republicans insist all taxpayers would come out ahead.
This is what this bill is about. Take-home pay. More money for the American people.
Republicans do not have the luxury of focusing just on taxes. The government's funding is set to expire at the end of the week, which raises the specter of a government shutdown if the two parties can't cut even a short-term deal over military and domestic spending. Jeff?
Nancy Cordes, thank you very much. All right, joining me now with more on this is CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger. Jill, good to see you. Talk more about what this means, especially as it pertains to the middle class.
Well, you know, middle class really depends on where you live. So if we look at a range, it's somewhere around $40,000 to $125,000. So let's take a household making, say, $75,000. And that household would get a near doubling of their standard deduction up to $24,000. And the average tax cut would be $840. But, and here's the but, it's just an average. We find out that 88% of people would see a tax reduction, 10% would see an increase, and the rest would actually stay the same.
A lot of small business owners looking at this carefully, too.
Well, this is an interesting part because right now, most small businesses are organized as pass-throughs. It means the money you earn passes through the entity and comes to you, and you're taxed at whatever your rate is at the time. Now, under the Senate plan, there's something new that happens for pass-throughs. You get a deduction of 23% of your income. So think about this. You make $100,000 for your business. Now you have $23,000 less upon which to be taxed, leaving $77,000. And again, there's a but with this. and that is that when you look at these pass-through corporations, it could be a potential where we see a lot of loopholes. Critics are saying this is where we've got to really protect the taxpayers.
And the other point here is that nothing is absolutely settled yet. Jill, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The U.S. and South Korea today began one of the largest combined Air Force exercises in history. 12,000 troops, 230 aircraft. The show force comes a week after North Korea test-fired its most advanced missile yet. National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster says the potential for war with the North is growing each day. Ben Tracy got to fly with American crews at the Misawa Air Base in Japan.
These F-16 fighter jets would be part of the first wave sent into North Korea to help take out enemy radar and missile defenses. We flew with Major Richard Smeating, who goes by the call sign Punch. We shot up into the air at nearly 500 miles per hour. Then right up the face of a spectacular Japanese mountain and just barely above the surface of a lake.
Pull up.
Ready? Yep.
We dove into narrow mountain canyons, similar to terrain you would encounter in North Korea.
What's the mission we're flying today?
We're doing a simulated strike mission.
Major Smeating spots the target ahead.
We got the target area in sight. Here we go.
It's called a pop attack, in which we pop several miles up into the air and then simulate dropping a bomb on an enemy site where weapons may be stored.
We got it.
And I'll go through the rest of my checklist and check the airplane with the crew chief.
Colonel Scott Jobe is commander of the 35th Fighter Wing at the Misawa Air Base in Japan. He says North Korea's increased missile testing has led the Air Force to conduct more complex training exercises.
We want diplomacy to take its course. We want that to be the primary mechanism. But if needed and if called on, we're ready, and we're ready to go right now, 100%.
Towards the end of our flight, Major Smeating flew us to where a recent North Korean missile sailed over Japan.
It's awfully close to your base.
Yeah.
Given the rising tensions, do these exercises feel more important?
They do. It's definitely a game changer now that there's we got nuclear weapons and they can reach America.
North Korea is calling the U.S. and South Korea warmongers for staging these military exercises this week. North Korean state media says that it is a provocation that could lead to a nuclear war. Jeff?
Ben, thank you very much. Police and FBI agents said today they broke up a planned mass shooting at an Islamic center in Jacksonville, Florida. One man was arrested Friday. The police say he had weapons and asked an undercover detective for help buying a silencer. He is identified as a citizen of the Philippines living in the U.S. on a green card. President Trump has waded into the Russia investigation again, raising new questions about obstruction of justice. And his legal team came up with their own definition of it. Here's Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett.
Well, I feel badly for General Flynn. I feel very badly.
President Trump empathized with his former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who admitted Friday to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Russian officials.
I think it's a shame.
Over the weekend, Mr. Trump tweeted he fired Flynn just 24 days into his term because, quote, he lied to the vice president and the FBI. The White House had said the president fired Flynn only because he misled Vice President Pence. The tweet sparked new questions about whether the president has obstructed justice. Shortly after firing Flynn, Mr. Trump told then FBI Director James Comey he hoped Comey could let the Flynn investigation go. The president later fired Comey. One of the president's lawyers, John Dowd, argued today the president cannot obstruct himself as the person with power and discretion over the Justice Department.
It'd be a shocking surprise to President Clinton that a president cannot be prosecuted for obstruction of justice.
Jimmy Garoulet, a former assistant attorney general under President George H.W. Bush, disagrees.
The statements that have been made by President Trump's lawyers basically amount to the claim that the president is above the law, that the president is not bound by the Constitution, is not bound by the rule of law.
Obstruction of justice was part of the articles of impeachments filed against both President Clinton and President Nixon. Jeff?
Major Garrett, thank you very much. Let's now bring in your White House colleague, Margaret Brennan, who had a very interesting conversation with the new Russian ambassador about the investigation.
Mr. Trump made it clear many times that he would like to improve Russian-American relations.
But till now, I couldn't say that our relations become more better.
Ambassador Antonov told us the Russia investigation severely complicates his work. Many U.S. officials even refuse to meet him.
How do you possibly get past the mistrust around the 2016 election?
It's very difficult to try to find a black cat in dark room where it is no any cat at all.
You're saying there's no story there?
There is no any proof regarding Russian interference into your election.
Hours before our interview, former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn had pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his contacts with Antonov's predecessor, Sergei Kislyak.
Frankly, I don't understand why any officials has no any right to speak to Russian ambassador.
What do you make of that?
It seems to me that
these are serious charges involving your previous ambassador.
Yes, he is a talented.
That complicates things.
Yes, he is smart, talented diplomat. I'm very much surprised that some mass media decided to blame him as a spy. It's stupid. It's nonsense.
Well, this is the FBI.
No, come on, you see that.
His primary goal, Antonov said, is to restore relations between the U.S. and Russia.
What we want to be together, fighting terrorism, to protect non-proliferation, and maybe to start negotiations regarding nuclear disarmament.
Antonov, who has brokered arms control deals with the U.S. before, said now he wants to collaborate on cybersecurity, an offer that so far the U.S. has not taken up. Jeff?
Margaret, thank you very much. Former Access Hollywood host Billy Bush accused President Trump today of revisionist history for reportedly saying it is not his voice on that infamous video, making a crude remark about women. In an op-ed piece in the New York Times, Bush wrote, "Of course he said it." Bush was interviewed this evening by Stephen Colbert.
Look, he last week, for some reason, came out with, "That's not my voice" on the tape. Like I said, you can't say that. That is your voice. I was there. You were there. That's your voice on the tape. But then you've got 20 women at the time, I don't know what the exact number is because there's more, but 20 women who used their names. We've got powerful people being held accountable now, and sometimes there's anonymous sources. All of these women came out with their names and told their detailed accounts. And as I read these, I said, 20 women don't get together and say, hey, you know, it'll be really fun. Let's take down a powerful guy together. Ha ha. No, they don't. And their names are, and I said, okay, you're reopening wounds on them too. Enough's enough. Stop playing around with the people's lives. That upset me.
You can see the rest of Stephen Colbert's interview with Billy Bush on The Late Show right after your late local news right here on CBS. Now, a quick look at some other stories in the evening news feed. The president today tweeted his endorsement of Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, despite the sexual assault accusations against Moore. 8 days before the special election, Republican Moore leads Democrat Doug Jones by 6 points. In 1980, Illinois Congressman John Anderson lost the Republican presidential nomination to Ronald Reagan, then ran as an independent. Anderson debated Reagan one-on-one when Democratic incumbent Jimmy Carter declined to join them. John Anderson died last night. He was 95 years old. There was something special in the sky last night as the moon made its closest approach to Earth and created a supermoon. It appeared 14% larger and 30% brighter than normal. The next supermoon will rise on New Year's night.
Bears Ears National Monument was just declared. Now 85% of it could be taken away.
Joe Taft has been rescuing big cats for 26 years. Many come here in poor health.
So he's going to feel a lot better after this is done.
Absolutely.
Scared me.
President Trump flew to Utah today to sign proclamations that shave nearly 2 million acres from national monuments there, and that could open the land to mining and grazing. Jamie Yukas is also there.
The view is breathtaking. A land of cultural richness, beauty, and solitude. For Mary Benelli, Bears Ears is home.
This place is so sacred to the Native Americans. People need to be here to see it. and feel the healing.
Benally is a descendant of the Navajo and Hopi, which were among the tribes that convinced President Obama to set aside more than 1 million acres to create Bears Ears National Monument.
I look around and say, wow, little old us, we did this. Somebody actually listened to us in Washington and
now?
did what we asked. And now this.
This is the move by the Trump administration to drastically shrink the amount of land protected at Bears Ears from 1.35 million acres to just over 200,000. And the equally stunning Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument in southern Utah by half. But there are those who prize what lies underneath the land: oil, gas, uranium, which is why the quiet land is now surrounded by so much noise.
So to you, President Trump and Secretary Zinke are?
Two of the greatest people that I've ever been able to associate myself with.
Bruce Adams, who chairs the San Juan County Commission, says the federal government, which owns 2/3 of the land in Utah, has overreached and residents should have more control.
What about the Native Americans who say this is their land and it's sacred ground?
I applaud the fact that they want that protection. I just simply think that that protection exists.
I cherish the land.
But for Navajo elder Willie Gray Eyes, stripping away protection would leave a deep scar.
Not only within myself, but my nation and probably all the Native Americans.
This is Grand Staircase Escalante. Former President Clinton declared this a monument more than 2 decades ago. Just like Bears Ears, it took years to get that status. Now, Native tribes and environmental groups say it could be years of a legal fight before it's resolved. Jeff?
Jamie, thank you very much. Up next, Time's shortlist for Person of the Year, and last year's winner is on it. Time will name its Person of the Year on Wednesday, and today it put out the short list, including Chinese President Xi, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, dreamers, undocumented immigrants brought to this country as children, Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, quarterback Colin Kaepernick, the Me Too movement, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, and last year's winner, President Trump. It is the 25th anniversary of the text message. The first was sent from a computer to a cell phone. British engineer Neil Papworth wrote, "Merry Christmas." There was no reply. The phone could not send messages. Here's another first, a pizza party in space. Italian astronaut Paolo Nespoli said he missed pizza, so NASA sent up all the fixings. The crew, as you can see, had fun tossing the pies around. One called them flying saucers of the edible kind. Coming up next here, the bravest dentists you'll ever meet.
This portion of the CBS Evening News is sponsored by Ancestry. Unlock your past, inspire your future.
We end tonight with a trip to the dentist like none you've ever seen. Here's Chip Reed.
Joe Taft has been rescuing big cats for 26 years. He's been caring for these tigers since they were born.
Oh, does everybody want attention?
But not everyone at the Exotic Feline Rescue Center in Indiana is such a cool cat.
Scared me.
That's because most of the 200 big cats here were rescued from abusive conditions. Many come here in poor health, some in agonizing pain from dental disease. So, twice a year, cats who are showing symptoms of lion-sized toothaches are tranquilized.
He is out for the count. But he's growling. Is that normal?
No.
They're then transported to makeshift operating rooms where about 4 dozen volunteers, doctors, dentists, and medical technicians are waiting. First, the anesthesia team in blue administers drugs to make sure these sleeping beauties stay that way as long as necessary. They insert breathing tubes as long as baseball bats and keep close track of their vitals. Next, the green teams take over. Dentists and technicians from all over the country working on a tiger named Zenny in one room.
Look at the size of that paw. Wow.
And in the other room, Jababi the lion, who appears to have been in excruciating pain for years. All 4 of his canine teeth were cut or filed down and are severely infected.
So what are you going to have to do to him?
Well, currently we're doing 4 root canals.
4 root canals?
At the same time, yeah.
All at the same time because speed is essential. Keeping them under for too long could threaten their health.
Necrotic debris that we're getting out of the inside of the canine tooth.
So he's going to feel a lot better after this is done.
Absolutely.
Most on these medical teams come here every year. Some have been here dozens of times. They do it out of love.
You want to come see me? Hi.
And to give these magnificent creatures a chance to live pain-free. Chip Reed, CBS News, Center Point, Indiana.
That is the CBS Evening News tonight. I'm Jeff Glor. Thank you for watching. Good night.
We got the target area in sight. Here we go.